Are you looking for the best electric pressure cookers? The only 7 best electric pressure cookers you should consider today. Review buying guide. In this video, we will look at some of the best electric pressure cookers buying guide on the market. For more details and price, click product link. Please check the description box below. Before we get started with our video. Number 1. Instant Pot Duo Mini 3-quart Pressure Cooker. Best for small spaces. This is a mini version of our budget pick, and it comes with all the same features. Typically, mini and budget-friendly appliances come with fewer features, less functionality, and compromised performance. This is not the case here. The display is still user-friendly and straightforward. The same safety features are present as with the larger versions, and it performed incredibly well in each of the tests we put it through. This model was by far the best at adding color to the vegetables in the beans and rice test. The beans were really nicely cooked without being overdone. This Instant Pot was also the best in terms of searing the pork with that deep caramelization. The pork had a springiness to it as well. Like the 6 and 8-quart versions of this cooker, this mini model also lacks a sous vide function. Not that you'd have enough space for sous vide water circulation in such a small unit anyway, and doesn't have a locking feature to keep the inner pot from spinning while sautéing. That said, it's still a powerhouse of versatility and functionality in a space-efficient package, and is easy to clean with or without a dishwasher. There's a lot to love about this small option. A 3-quart cooker isn't great for cooking dinner for a large family, but it's great for cooking for singles, couples, or for side dishes, and it is very easy to store. We certainly wouldn't try to jam the bones from a Thanksgiving turkey into this one to make bone broth, but it's just what we need for the carcass of a rotisserie chicken to make a more petite amount of stock. Number 2. Zojirushi NSTSC 10 Rice Cooker 5.5 cups. Best rice cooker overall. Since I got my hands on this Zojirushi a year ago, my rice has been evenly tender and fluffy every time I use it. I tend to mostly make sushi rice and long-grain white rice like basmati or jasmine, and the machine excels at both. I've made brown rice a few times, and even tested out quinoa and farro to much success. The reason for this is thanks to what the brand calls fuzzy logic, or a built-in microcomputer that can sense how your rice is cooking and adjust the time and temperature to get a perfect result. I don't totally understand the mechanics, but it works. For the grains that don't have specific settings, the brand has this incredibly helpful guide, and a quick Google search will yield instructions on any type not listed there. I've also used the included basket to steam greens and, as Carla Lally Music taught me, perfect potatoes. And I think it's worth noting, I've left my rice on the keep warm setting for as much as an hour and a half, and remarkably, it doesn't affect the texture at all. When all is said and done, both the steamer and the inside bowl are a breeze to clean. You pluck them out, and any residue rinses right off. My biggest disclaimer, it takes quite a while, about an hour, to cook the rice. Other models, and even making rice on the stovetop, are done in closer to 30 minutes. But for consistency and texture, it really is the best. But don't just take it from me. In my reporting, Zojirushi came up more than any other brand. They have a fancier model with even more settings that multiple experts mention. You can read about that one further down on the list. But this one, especially given that it's less than half the price of the other, makes for an all-around great buy. Food writer and recipe developer Kira Wright-Ruiz had to leave hers behind when she recently moved out of the country, and told me it's the thing she misses the most. I'm sure people have said this before, but it really is the Lamborghini of rice cookers, she says, noting that even if you add too little or too much water, it will self-correct. You get a consistent texture with a margin of error. Another particularly appealing feature is the ability to preset when you want your rice to cook. You can sync it to be done at the same time as other foods, says Wright-Ruiz. Like if you're braising something that takes 3 hours, you can time it so that the rice is done right when your braise is done. Or if you want rice in the morning, you can set it before you go to sleep, and it will automatically start, so you have rice ready to go when you wake up. Finally, though perhaps not the most imperative to the rice itself, Zojirushi's machines play music when you start them, an adaptation of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and when they're done cooking. And it's clearly delightful enough that everyone who recommended the brand, again, more on the rest of those folks below, made mention of the jingles. Number 3. Aroma Arc 914 Solomon Islands dollars Digital Rice Cooker. Best less expensive rice cooker. For a particularly low-key model that gets the job done, The Aroma is a great bet. In my own testing, I found the simplicity of the machine wasn't only good enough, but a plus. While I do appreciate the more targeted settings of the Zojirushi, this one was more intuitive to use initially and has only a few very clear settings. Each time, it has yielded fluffy, perfectly cooked grains, no matter if I'm making long grain white, short grain white, or brown rice. And the keep warm setting works well. Once, I let a batch sit for a full hour before I ate, and it was still moist, but not overcooked. Recipe developer and cookbook author Abi Balangit expresses a similar sentiment. It's very straightforward to use, she says, basically dummy-proof. The cost was part of the initial appeal, Balangit says, but she's been using hers for 5 years with consistent results every time. She also appreciates the compact size that fits in the small space above her kitchen cabinets. Still, I'll note, it fits plenty. I made rice in it for a dinner party of 5 people and had leftovers. And Chef Justin Lee is a fan too. For home use, I think a cheap and simple one is really all you need, he says. Overall, it's just easier than using a pot, or at least you don't have to watch it as much. It gets the jobs done totally fine. And sure, there's something about the way the Zojirushi is constructed that makes it superior. But at the end of the day, we're not making sushi rice. This is just us cooking rice at home so we can feed ourselves and our family. For that, he maintains, it's perfect. Number 4. Imusa Electric Non-Stick Rice Cooker. Best even less expensive rice cooker. The Imusa literally couldn't be easier to use, it's almost toy-like. To turn it on, you just plug it in. Otherwise, it operates with a single tab you switch down to cook and up to keep warm. This latter setting is its default when plugged in, and it reverts back to it the moment a batch is finished. In my testing, I found the machine produces nicely textured short and long grain white rice, plump and hydrated but not mushy. I will note that though I haven't tried it with brown rice yet, some reviews say this doesn't work as well because a lot of water collects in the lid, so I might not opt for this model if you plan to make longer cooking varieties. I like the clear lid, the only one on this list that has this feature besides the Persian rice cooker below. It doesn't actually do anything, but there's something satisfying about being able to peek inside. Recipe developer and writer Justine Doiron loves her Imusa because of its simplicity and because of its reliability. She first bought it about 8 years ago at Target because it was the cheapest one she could find. Despite the notably low price, the machine has proven to be incredibly durable and has never done me wrong, she says. When a cooking appliance is only meant for one use, you don't need the fanciest model. Number 5. Pars Automatic Persian Rice Cooker. Best Persian Rice Cooker. The Pars Persian Rice Cooker is built to do something particular and different from all the others on this list. Make flawless tahdig. Tahdig is the ubiquitous crispy layer of rice at the bottom and top, when you turn it over, of many preparations of Persian rice dishes. It is also notoriously difficult to master. The goal is to end up with fluffy, separate grains of basmati underneath that crust, which must be evenly crunchy and beautifully golden brown. I'm an avid home cook, but rice was always tough for me, and that's part of why for a while I avoided cooking a lot of Persian food, says writer Arya Roshanian, who chronicled his foray into using the Pars for Vox last year. Funnily enough, his mom and grandmother both used one, and it was during the pandemic that he finally decided it was time to get one himself. In fact, he has 2 now, the smaller 4-cup he started out with, and a larger 7-cup he uses to make tahdig for a crowd. It's user-friendly, he says, something that my 85-year-old grandma who only speaks Farsi and isn't that good at technology can figure out. The first time I used it, I was thinking I would need to try a few times in order to get it right. But it came out pretty perfectly, and then each subsequent time too. It regulates temperature so it never burns. The insert is lightweight, which is nice for turning over. I still oil the bottom a bit because tahdig needs to be a little fried, but everything is non-stick so it's super easy to flip out and to clean. Number 6. Cuckoo CRPP 1009 SP Pressure Rice Cooker. Cuckoo rice cookers are the most common ones you'll see in Korean households. I bought one because that's what my mom and aunts use, says Joan Lee Molinaro, better known as the Korean vegan. When you go to the Korean grocery store, you see a bunch of Cuckoos all over the place. Molinaro uses hers, a slightly older but similar model to the one listed, primarily for brown rice, which she and her husband eat most, as well as mixed rice, the setting for which she uses every time she combines grains. With Korean rice, a lot of times it's not just rice, she says, explaining add-ins like soybeans, farro, pearl barley, and even chestnuts and sweet potatoes are fairly common. For food writer Justine Lee, who has the more recent model, the multi-cook setting is where it stuns. Multi-cook essentially turns the appliance into a pressure cooker and allows you to adjust the time and heat level. Both are as easy as dialing the knob to set, Lee says. It's how I steam a bunch of Korean sweet potatoes right before road trips and quell my bean hankerings come summertime. I've even followed recipes fitted for a traditional instant pot, such as cinnamon buns and yakbap, which can get sticky. But cleanup with this rice cooker is a breeze across the board. Number 7. Zojirushi NPNWC 10XB Rice Cooker. Best high-end rice cooker. This is the previously mentioned higher-end Zojirushi rice cooker that so many experts enthusiastically recommended. It is, notably, the most expensive on the list, but it's clearly a favorite and a worth-it investment if you eat enough rice. It has that same standout technology as the more affordable model, but the main difference is the many settings. Everyone who I talked to about it mentioned one in particular. This model I bought specifically because it has a kanji mode, says food writer and editor Elise Whitney. The one I had previously for many years only had Japanese porridge, which is thinner. So yes, I bought this for a button, but it literally makes perfect kanji. Recipe developer and cookbook author Betty Liu also makes a lot of kanji in hers, calling it convenient, fast, and incredibly reliable. And finally, TikTok recipe creator Vivian Aronson uses that feature too, particularly for breakfast. I can set it at night and have kanji ready in the morning, she says.